All right. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I was born in Iowa. I've got one brother. Um, my dad owned well, my parents owned a feed store in St. Charles. Sold like, you know, cow and horse food and stuff. Um, and my brother's 2 years younger than me, but from a small town of like 1,000 people in Iowa. So my childhood was pretty. I had a good childhood. I did notice from an early age that I had, what I don't know, a lot of people would say is like addict-like behavior. I was very obsessive with whatever I was interested in, and always loved adrenaline. I rode dirt bikes since I was like 4 years old, I think. Yeah, 4 years old. And so I guess when I was thinking, the first thing that came to mind of kind of like getting in trouble or whatever as a kid, is when after 4th of July, I had some fireworks, and I was in 3rd grade, and one of the kids in my class was telling me about how he knew how to make like a pipe bomb. So I brought a bunch of fireworks to school, and we went over to his house and tried making a bomb, not to like, hurt anybody, but we just wanted to make a big bomb. But anyway, he ratted me out, and I got in trouble at school the next day. So that was kind of my first run in with authority, but uh, luckily it was pre 9/11 and all the crazy stuff. I would have probably got kicked out of school for the rest of my life if that happened now, but I just got like slap on the wrist. But um, I hear a lot of people say that they felt like they didn't really fit in or whatever when they were younger and in school and stuff. Um, and I don't know if it was just because my school is so small or whatever, but I never really felt like that. Um, I was kind of like, I don't know, the class clown or whatever. And I got along with everybody. I didn't, um, I don't know, I wasn't like the most popular kid in my grade, but I felt like I got along with everybody. So I couldn't really re- relate to that when people say that about their upbringing. Um, let's see. So I raced dirt bikes my whole life, like I said, and in ninth grade, I broke my wrist and went to the hospital, and it was out of place, so they had to give me a shot of Dilaudid, and I just remember um, like how good that felt when they did that, and I don't know, I was just like amazed by how it made me feel. But I was like really sheltered, and from a small town in Iowa, I didn't have like a lot of, or I didn't have any friends that had like started experimenting with drugs or anything. So I I don't know, I just was so sheltered. I didn't even really know that it was like, something that people did outside of getting it from a doctor or whatever. And then later on, after that, my cousin had a script of some like Percocets for his hand that he had messed up, and he gave me a half one in school. And I just remember taking that and then feeling like, I want to feel like that every day for the rest of my life. And but I don't know, like I was so sheltered, like I said, that I didn't really know that I could even pursue that out of there. So I did, like, I went through my parents' medicine cabinet and I um looked. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Like, I didn't even know it was a Percocet, but I just looked for bottles that said may cause drowsiness. And so, and one of them, the bottles happened to be Vicodin from one of my dad's surgeries. So I took those, but after that, I didn't pursue it anymore, anything like that. And I didn't, I didn't want to experiment with like drugs or drinking. Um, Once, like when I was in high school, I didn't want to experiment with that because I was taking the motocross racing so serious, and I didn't want it to mess that up or whatever. So, and I was thinking that since the pills were from a doctor, that it wasn't like doing drugs or anything. Um, so after that bottle ran out, I didn't do anything else. That was my ninth grade, like I said. And so for the whole rest of my high school, I didn't smoke weed or drink or anything like that. Um, but a lot of my friends started smoking weed and drinking, and my brother were too, or my brother was too. And then my senior year, or my junior and senior year, I started traveling a lot out of state for my motocross races and stuff. And then I ended up starting my senior year. I started making a lot of, or a lot for a high schooler, but I could make like $1,000 on the weekend racing. And my friends and brother were telling me how much they were buying weed for, and then I was asking them like, how much can you buy, like a lot for, or more than you guys are buying. So um I ended up buying like a half a pound of weed for the first time I ever bought any weed, just so that they could sell it for me or whatever. So I don't know, I didn't partake in any of it because I thought that would mess up my racing, but it's not like I looked down on them for doing it or anything. I guess I was open to getting into that lifestyle, I guess. But so then at around the time I was graduating, my parents got a divorce. I stayed in the house that I was living at, and my mom and brother moved out. But then after a few months, my mom and brother moved back, and my dad moved out. But I just stayed there the whole time. But so around that time, I started experimenting with drinking with my friends. And I remember the first time that I tried drinking with them, we took some shots of like whatever was in my friend's parents' basement bar. And I just remembered I started like laughing uncontrollably, and like hysterically laughing, and which, I mean, even I thought it was weird, but I don't know, I couldn't help myself. So I guess they say, when you have a different bodily reaction to alcohol than your fellows. I definitely had that from the first time I did it. But so then a little bit after that, I'm still 18 years old. I go out to Illinois to start the training for this pro motocross series that I'm going to be doing in the winter. And went and stayed at a couple other pro riders' house. And then when I was there, they were smoking weed and drinking. So like the whole time I'd said I wasn't going to do the drugs or whatever because I didn't want it to mess up my motocross racing. But then I saw these pro riders that I looked up to doing it. So I was like, well, I guess if they're doing it, it can't be that bad. So that's when I tried smoking weed for the first time. And then pretty much started smoking it daily after that and drinking, whenever we could get somebody to buy us alcohol or something during the week and on the weekends, and just pretty much started living the party lifestyle. I didn't have a job. I was just racing to make money or whatever. And so that winter I raced that pro motocross series. It's called Arena Cross. Actually, it'd be kind of like AAA baseball. So I was like racing pro, but not like the highest level. But I was still, making decent money and getting to travel around the country for free doing it. So I was having the time of my life. But there was something wrong with my bike that I had gotten that year, and it kept cutting out on the face of jumps, and I didn't realize that's what was happening and making me crash until the last time that I got hurt, because I broke my thumb the first time it happened, and then like my second race back from that, it cut out again, and I broke 3 bones in my foot. And then my first race back from that, it cut out on the face of a big jump, and I broke my hip, and the bone went through the skin. So after that, I had a prescription of painkillers. I think it was like 120 Vicodin a month that they had me on, and I was loving them, so I was trying to get them to refill them all that I could. And it was kind of around that time that my focus went from the motocross to now my focus was on partying and doing painkillers as much as I could. So yeah, I'm basically just partying and taking painkillers as much as I can, pretty much every day once I found a source for them. And then at age 20 was the first time I got a criminal charge. I came up behind a state trooper on the interstate, and I only had one headlight, and I had, like weed and pills in the car, but I thought, that I would do the reverse psychology, because I thought, oh, if I like don't pass him now, he's going to think something's fishy and suspect me of something. So I passed him, which looking back was really stupid, but I thought it was a good idea at the time. But he pulled me over, searched my car, found a jar with some weed in it and some pills. And I didn't tell my parents or anything about it, but I guess they print off all the arrests they make in the paper, which he just gave me a ticket for a court date, but it still said arrested in the paper. So that's how my parents found out that I was in trouble for drugs and stuff. And I got put on probation for that. And I was I was having to meet with my probation officer once a month, and even though I was just smoking weed and taking the pain pills, I couldn't stop smoking weed, so I would always have to try and beat the UA somehow. And yeah, just looking back, I think that it's pretty crazy that I couldn't even quit smoking weed. I mean, that's supposed to be like the least addictive drug, and I couldn't even quit when I knew that I was risking going to jail. But that should have been a sign for me for things to come, if I couldn't even quit that. But anyway, somehow I got off probation. Barely skated by, and then I was like 21. My friend, his that I raced with, his mom was a pharmacy tech, and she had the habit of bringing home Xanax and other benzos from the pharmacy she worked at. And so then my friend would take some for us, and I started taking those along with the drinking and other painkillers that I was popping at the time. But one night I was drinking with my buddy, and then I had like some Xanax and beers, and I was out in eastern Iowa, kind of over in Matt Wiedemeyer's neck of the woods. But and then I was going to drive back to Des Moines, and I was going through town, and I think it was another headlight, actually, now that I think about it. But I got pulled over, and so then I had like 10 Xanax bars left. So I took all of those when I was getting pulled over, and the cop gets me out, has me do sobriety tests, has me do a breathalyzer. The legal limit in Iowa was 0.08, and I blew a 0.088, so I was 8 thousandths over the limit. And so he gave me a DUI. So I went to jail, and they're doing my intake and stuff, and I'm telling them, like, well, first they're asking me, did I take anything else? Because by then, once I'm in the station, the Xanax is starting to kick in, and I'm, getting more and more out of it. But I tell them, like, I have to take a leak, and they're like, well, you have to finish your processing first. I'm like, I have to go bad, and they still didn't let me go. So then we were almost done. Or maybe no, we were done with the paperwork. So I stood up, and I couldn't hold it anymore, and just pissed my pants right there, right as the cop was saying, okay, you can go to the bathroom now. But then he looked down and saw there was piss going on the floor. So they didn't even give me new clothes or anything. I just had to sleep in that. But luckily, if you take 10 Xanax bars, a little pee in your pants doesn't stop you from sleeping. So then after that, my dad, he was a semi driver for one of the pro motocross teams. And so for my punishment, or so he could keep his eye on me, I guess, he had me go on the road with him for like a month or so of the races. We went to Seattle first, and so before I went, I had started to notice that I couldn't quit taking the opiates without withdrawing. So I knew I was going to withdraw. So I got, I don't know, it wasn't even that many. It was like 10 Vicodin pills or something to take with me so I could wean off. And I don't know, it wasn't too bad, but I weaned off and withdrawed for like, a couple weeks. And then the last race that I was going to with him was in Las Vegas, and one of my buddies had moved out there, and I ended up trading him some passes to get in the race for some of the old school OC80s that they had back in the day. And so then I was back on the opiates, doing those, and came back to Iowa, and moved back in with my mom, living on her couch. I was selling weed. I was kind of like a hippie phase, I guess. There was a festival place not too far from my house that would have big festivals, and I got into mushrooms and acid and ecstasy around then. And I mean, that was pretty fun while it lasted. And I had gotten a job at UPS around that time, and I was loading semis with boxes or whatever. And then I started to notice that we were getting pharmacy boxes coming into the semi to load. So I started to open them up and looking at the packing list to see if there was anything good in there. So then me and another guy started stealing, all kinds of stuff, going to the pharmacies, fentanyl patches, bottles of like 500 Vicodin and Percocet, just a whole bunch of stuff. And then one day, uh, we had some boxes open. I was looking through the packing list, and like two of the big managers came in and was like, "You need to come with us now." So they took me into a room and told me they were investigating like boxes going missing from the trucks, and there was a DEA agent in there, and he just like sat in the corner taking notes the whole time they were interrogating me. And I said, I just denied the whole thing, um, but I had some pills in the pocket of my pants, and they said, after like half an hour, I was like, well, I need to go to the bathroom, or yeah, I need to go to the bathroom. And at first they didn't want to let me, but then they finally let me. But they had the DA agent go in the bathroom with me, not like in the stall, but he just went into the bathroom with me. And so I took the pills out of my pocket and put them in the waistband of my underwear. And then right when I came back in the room, they searched me to try and find something. So luckily, they didn't find anything on me. And so basically nothing really happened. They just said I had to resign. And I got really lucky on that, because that, could have been federal charges messing with the mail. So then after that, I was just living at home on my mom's couch, selling weed or whatever to get by. And so then after a while, I was like, this isn't good. I'm in my almost mid-20s now, living at home on my mom's couch. And I was like, I'm really motivated to get out of this situation and do something with my life. So I started putting in a lot of time and effort of getting my life back on track, which consisted of me watching FBI files so I could figure out how to rob banks good, because that was my master plan. And so I'm watching FBI files like all day while my mom's at work, and then she comes home and she's getting worried. She's like, are you gonna like start or you're not gonna start like robbing banks or stuff, are you? I'm like, well, that wouldn't be that bad, I'm not, it's not like I'm taking from a person. But so then I'm doing that, not really doing anything with my life. But then after that, I'm at a house party with a bunch of my friends, and I'm telling them, about my master plan to start robbing banks and all that. And they're like, you're not going to do that or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I am. And so they're going back and forth with me, no, you're not. And I was like, I'll go rob that gas station right up the street from us right now. And they're like, no, you won't. I dare you to do it. So then once they dared me, I didn't have a choice. I had to do it. So me and my brother and my friend go to the gas station, and a carload of my friends follow us and park across the street because they're going to watch me rob the gas station. And so I was waiting to go in. I tied like a shirt around my face, put some sunglasses on, and I had like a little fake gun that looked like a real pistol, but it was like a CO2 BB gun or something. And so I'm waiting outside the gas station for the customers that are in there to leave. And then they leave, and I run in and yell like, give me the money. And then the cashier was like, "What money? I don't have any money to give you." And which kind of like um, made me think like, "What? That's not how this is supposed to go." But so I was like, I grabbed a pack of gum off the counter. And I was like, "Ring this up and give me all the money out of the register." So she does that, gives me all the money out of the register. I run out where my brother and friend are parked a couple blocks away, and then we go back to the house party, and nothing nothing ever happened with that. That I was on the news as the designer shades bandit or something. I don't know. They were like $10 middle of the mall glasses, but so then I got a house in Des Moines with my brother and friend, and that only lasted like 3 months because we were throwing parties there every night, and it was in kind of like a nicer neighborhood, so the neighbors were like not putting up with that at all. And one night somebody got drunk and sideswiped like 3 or 4 cars as they were leaving our house, so the neighbors just really hated us after that. But so then I go back to my spot, my mom's couch, and just doing the same thing there, smoking weed and taking pain pills and drinking. Then I went up to visit my friend at college up in Cedar Rapids by where Matt lives again. And we were hanging out at his friends, and then all of a sudden we hear the cops banging on the door saying, "Police search warrant, we're coming in." So, and then they bust in the door, and the guy's house we were at actually he put all his stuff in one of those like beer can stash cans, and opened up his window and set it outside. So they didn't even find anything that he had. But I threw my weed pipe before they came in, but I forgot I had just bought a bag of weed that I had in my pocket. So I get charged with possession there, and they take me to jail, but they released me on my own recognizance the next day. So that was January of 2010. And then like a couple days after that, when I got back, my cousin, who was a construction worker, had been working at a hospital, and he had went in this doctor's office and took some script pads out of there. So he knew I liked pills, so he gave them to me. So I looked up how to write prescriptions and stuff on the internet, and it's kind of funny looking back now, but the website where I found out how to write them was like badideas.com. And so I'm writing myself and my friend scripts for Xanax and Vicodin and Percocet. Nothing, I couldn't go too high because you need a DEA number for anything like, like the oxys or Dilaudid, stuff like that. But I could write all the Vicodin and Percocet that I wanted, and Xanax. So I was doing that for about a month. And then I'm getting ready to go. I'm with my friend and we went to this pharmacy, and I was on my way to meet up with my dad to go to San Diego to watch a motocross race. But we stopped by this pharmacy on the way to fill this script or whatever. And I'm just sitting in the passenger seat while my friend went in, and I must have, like, I don't know, nodded out or something. I mean, I was just on ungodly amounts of opiates and benzos, and but I woke up to a cop saying, "Get the fuck out on the car, get on the ground." And so we had been investigated by the Mine Task Force and busted for the fake scripts. I guess my friend had took off running on foot. But so then I go to jail in Des Moines, and so this is like my first time going to jail where I don't get out, like, the next day or that night. And my friend, actually, his dad was a bail bondsman, and I had him convinced to bail me out or whatever. But my parents called him and told him, like, don't bail him out, let him stay in there, because they're worried about me. And so the guys in jail are telling me, like, yeah, you're gonna have to do a drug evaluation, and just lie to her and tell her you do drugs all the time and stuff, so you get rehab instead of prison or whatever. Because I had like 40 some years worth of charges for this prescription forgery stuff. And so I mean, that was easy. I didn't have to lie, because I was doing drugs all the time. And so I just told her, the truth. And she recommended inpatient treatment. So after I had been in jail about like 45 days, I think it was, I went to my first inpatient treatment, and got there, and I think it was, I don't know, I was probably there almost 2 weeks, I guess. But then I got kicked out because I was making hooch behind the dryer in the washing room. So I went back to jail, and I still had a bond. So somehow I convinced my friend's dad to bond me out anyways, even though my parents had told him not to let me bond out before. And so I get bonded out, and then I started hanging out with this girl that I had met in that treatment. And she was in like a hardcore halfway house, so she wasn't using or anything. But I was just out on bond, so I was like doing oxys and stuff, and I was just snorting them at the time. And she saw me doing that, and she's like, "Well, if you're gonna do those, why don't you do them the right way?" And I was like, what are you talking about?" And she's like, shooting them up or whatever. So then I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try it once. And then I'm sure some of you know how that goes. I tried it once for 7 or 8 years after that. And so I'm out on bond, and I have a court date, um and my stepmom's boss is my lawyer. So I go to my court date, and I'm all messed up on Xanax and oxys or whatever. And he gets all mad at me, and, kind of like yells at me or whatever. And so then after that, I got on the methadone program. And I don't know, I think I was only on that for a couple weeks. Then I had another court date, and I went there, and the judge, looking back on it, I'm almost positive that my stepmom's boss told the judge to just like send me to jail so I could do treatment again. But he asked like what I'd been doing and stuff, and I said, I'm on the methadone program trying to get off the opiates, and then he like flipped out on me and revoked my bond. So then I go back to jail, and he recommends that I have to do in jail treatment, which was 4 months long, and I had to wait 3 months just to get into it. So I did like almost 8 months in jail by the time I got out. But that was the first time, I guess, in the in jail treatment that I had been exposed to. They would have like guys come in and bring AA meetings into the jail a couple times a week. But yeah, they say I have to go to a halfway house when I get out of there. So I'm thinking in my mind like, man, this is gonna suck going to a halfway house when I get out. But I get there, and it's mostly all people that I was in treatment with, and I got out on my birthday actually. There was the house manager comes to do curfew, and then he just like left. So they're like, okay, well, after he left, they're like, do you want to go to the liquor store and get a couple bottles now or what? And I'm like, well, we can't, we're gonna get in trouble. And they're like, no, it's fine, we do this like every night. So the halfway house turned into more of a frat house than a halfway house. It was not structured at all. And I mean, if I would have been trying, I guess I could have done it, but everybody was in there drinking and using, and it was crazy. But I was only there I got out on March 7th, and then on 4/20, the whatever probation enforcement cops came and raided the house because there was like a guy selling like a bunch of crack out of there, and they'd been getting reports that we were all using in there. So they came and made us all drop, and somehow I was the only one that dropped dirty. Like a couple other guys dropped dirty, but they had already told their PO that they were dirty, so they didn't have to go to jail. But and then the guy that was selling crack had it hid under the steps, so they didn't find that. And so I had just done almost 8 months in jail, was out for 5 weeks, and then I'm going back to jail, and have to wait another 3 months to get into this work release program called the Fort Des Moines. And so I get there, and I have a job. I had been working at Jimmy John's before I got arrested that time as a delivery driver. And you're not supposed to have your vehicle at this work release place until you're like way farther in the program, or if you need it for your job. So since I'm a delivery driver, they let me have it. And you only start out getting like $25 out of your check every week until you like level up to the program. And but since I was a delivery driver, I got a bunch of cash tips, which was nice for me. So I had plenty of money to buy the Dilaudids I was doing after I found out they didn't show up in the drug test there. So I'm just getting high on Dilaudids like the whole time I'm there. I remember one time I was like nodding out in the chow hall, and I like came to with like 4 of the COs just standing there looking at me like they knew I was getting messed up on something, but I kept dropping clean UA, so they couldn't figure out what. And I had one of those big monster cans with the screw-on caps. I had one of those with gas in it because I was always like running out of gas or almost running out of gas when I was driving around delivering stuff, because I had to put money in the Dilaudid fund, not in the gas tank fund. So, but they thought I was huffing gas, like, because they just couldn't figure out what I was using. But so after a while of that, they started like writing me up for every little rule I broke or whatever, trying to send me to prison or whatever. But I was playing basketball and hurt my knee, which uh I had already had two ACL surgeries on my right knee from my motocross injuries, and uh, um, I kind of like there at the halfway or whatever work release program. So I went to the doctor and they said I needed surgery again. So um, the since I was like property of the state or whatever, I was in a state facility, they would have had to pay for the surgery and all that. So instead of them doing that, they just medically discharged me. So I got out of there just barely before they sent me to prison on that. And so then moved back home to my mom's couch and got in a relationship with the girl that I met at my drug dealer's house. And we got an apartment together, which was terrible, and fought all the time and all that. And my parents were getting like real worried about me, so they committed me to a rehab. So I think that was my fourth inpatient that they committed me to. And so I go through that 30-day treatment or whatever and get out, and I'm still on probation for the prescription forgery stuff, but somehow my PO keeps like not recommending prison. I just keep getting lucky over and over again. But I get oh yeah, on that on that when I went to that inpatient when they committed me, my mom was like, "Oh yeah, you and Caitlin should come down to the house and have dinner." And she's like, bring some extra clothes in case you decide to stay," which was her way of getting me to pack for rehab without telling me about it. But I got to my mom's house to the driveway, and then two cops pulled in the driveway, and they're like, "You're being committed to inpatient treatment, whatever." And so I was like, I had some of it was right when the Oxy 80s switched over to the tamper proof ones. So I had some of those in the car along with some Xanax bars. So they told me I'm going to inpatient treatment. So I asked them if I could get my wallet out of my car. And they said, yeah. And I grabbed 3 of the Oxy 80s and like 8 or 10 of the Xanax bars, and I popped all those. And it was like a hour ride to the rehab. And so by the time I got there, I was like starting to nod off pretty bad. And then about an hour after I got there, I was like all the way unresponsive. So so I overdosed in treatment right when I got there. So they had to call the ambulance and come Narcan me and take me to the hospital. So that was quite an entrance I made there. So I stayed in the hospital for a couple days. I had a cool security guard that would take me out to smoke, though, even though there was no smoking on on the hospital. But so then I went to that inpatient, did that for 30 days, got out, and I started taking the Suboxone because I was at that point. Before then, I hadn't really wanted to get clean. I might have said that I did, but I mostly just wanted the consequences to stop or whatever. But then at that time is kind of when I first started wanting to get off the stuff. And so I started taking Suboxone, going to a doctor and getting that. And then so um, during that time, I couldn't do any opiates, obviously. So I don't know. I still wanted to shoot up something, I guess. So I started doing crack, which I didn't really even like it doing at all, but I did it for like 2 months probably. So then I go back to another inpatient rehab, my fifth one, and the girl that I was dating and had a house with or whatever, a little bit after I got there, we had kind of split up before, but kind of not, you know how that goes. But I'm talking to her on the phone. She tells me she started dating our like 40-year-old heroin dealer, and we're like, you know, in our early 20s. So I was like, okay, whatever. And so then I went through that inpatient. I got out, and I asked my mom to take me to an AA meeting. I think it was like the day after I got out. Yeah. And so she takes me to the AA meeting. I call up my ex and tell her to come pick me up. So then, you know, we go get high or whatever while I'm supposed to be at this AA meeting. But my tolerance is so low that when my mom picks me up and starts driving me home, I start like overdosing. So she has to take me to the hospital, and you know, they Narcan me or whatever. And so for that I got another probation violation. But then after that I started actually going to AA meetings because one of my friends that I had used with a lot told me about them and was telling me how they got sober. So I actually stayed sober after that. And but since I got a probation violation, I still had to go do another inpatient treatment, so I didn't have to go to prison. So that's my sixth one that I'm on now, but I'm sober for like 6 weeks before I go there, you know, while I'm waiting to get into the inpatient. And so I'm doing AA, and I met this girl, started talking to her, and then so then I go to the treatment that I have to go to for my probation violation after being sober for 6 weeks. And then I get out, still doing AA meetings and stuff. And there was like a big group of younger kids doing AA meetings. And some of them were like, you know, not really doing it right. And so for like one of the first times that we all went out, they're like, yeah, let's go to the strip club and whatever. So we go out, go to the strip club. We're all sober. And that girl I'd met that I was talking to is like, oh, I have Adderall. You can take one of those. And I'm like, well, doesn't that count as not being sober or whatever? And she's like, no, it's AA. You just have to stop drinking. So I was like, oh, cool. I love loopholes. So I started doing that a little bit, not like every day or anything, just occasionally. But eventually, me and that girl move in to a place together. And then us and like 4 or 5 other people from AA all decide to relapse and start drinking again on the same night. So I think that I'm going to just drink now, and I'm not going to do drugs. But then one of my, which that worked for, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks. And then one of my friends that I used to get high with came over to one of our parties, and I asked him for a cigarette, and then I saw that one of his cigarettes had the filter all ripped up, which you use that if you're gonna filter out whatever you're shooting up. So I knew that he was getting high again. So I was like, let me get some of that, just kind of like on the spot decision. So then I started using again and went to another big downhill spiral of just like, craziness, getting in huge fights with my girlfriend. And then I went to another inpatient rehab, number 7, which is where I met my fiance now. She was my nurse tech or whatever. So I met her, and then I was like, I was really thinking I was going to stay sober after that treatment and not do what I had been doing for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years by now, just the same cycle over and over again. But I didn't really have a good plan of how I was not going to do that. I just thought since I wanted to not do it anymore, that I was not going to do it anymore. But I don't know. I still was drinking, and then I don't know what made me decide to start using again, but I did, and then I ended up getting another probation violation. So then I got sentenced to a year-long rehab, like inpatient rehab, and then you would level up, go to kind of like halfway house type, where you could leave during the day and go to work, go to meetings, and then you could get passes on the weekend. So I did that, but I was still thinking like, okay, I can't do the drugs anymore, but I don't have a problem with alcohol, so I'm not gonna quit doing that. So I was still drinking like on my weekend passes and stuff, and I didn't know they had a 72-hour alcohol test that they did on me after I got back from one of my passes. So I got in trouble for that, ended up having to do 15 months of that before I graduated. And after that, I graduated and moved in with my fiance now. And I was still thinking I could drink and, that I'd be okay. But, and then I also was like smoking weed a little bit here and there too. I didn't think that was a big deal. But then, and I was working in the carpenters union at that time for my job. But so I'm drinking, and my drinking's getting more and more out of control. I'm like just acting like a jackass when I drink, and drinking too much. I don't have any control of how much I drink once I start, and it's just getting like out of control bad. So and well, I guess also around that time I had my daughter, who's 5 now. But then a little bit after that, I decided that I do need to quit drinking. And so my solution for that was that I was gonna get an Adderall script for my ADD. And so I did quit drinking and got an Adderall script by lying to the doctor, saying I had a script before in high school and wanted to get back on it, whatever. So I'm taking that for a while, but of course, just like anything else, I have no control over that, and my scripts going lasting me less and less days. I'm taking them thinking that I'm only gonna, or that I'm gonna take an extra one today and take one less tomorrow, but then the next day I still take one extra, and my script's gone like way before it should be. So my fiance calls my doctor, tells him that I'm not taking it as prescribed. And so then my doctor cuts me off from the Adderall. So then around that time, then I ran into this kid I know in town that I knew did meth. So then I started buying meth from him to replace the Adderall. And I started out just by putting it in capsules and taking it orally for a long time. But then, then my fiance knew I was, on Adderall or meth or something. So we were constantly getting into fights, and I was getting kicked out. And it was just, more of the same chaos that had been in my life before. And so that went on for a while. I think it was about a year that I was on the meth before she pretty much gave me the ultimatum of going to treatment or getting kicked out of the house for good. And I didn't really want to go because at this point I'd been to like 8 other inpatient treatments, and I was like, why do you want me to go? Do you want me to go teach the classes down there, or what good am I going to get from going down there? But I don't know. I kind of realized that I needed to go somewhere, because even though I had really wanted to quit for, I don't know, the last few months or so of my use, I couldn't, and I kept lying to myself thinking I was going to quit, when this bag runs out, or blah blah blah, and never could. So I was like, I guess I will go. And I picked a treatment that was not 12-step based, because I didn't want to do meetings or go back to AA. I guess I was kind of like ashamed from when I went to AA before and relapsed. And I don't know, I was just like, I don't want to go to AA and make that like my whole life. I don't want it to be about AA or whatever rationale I had. But so I get there and I have my first one-on-one with my counselor. And well, first of all, it was in Minnesota and I'm in Iowa, so it should have taken me 4 hours to get there. But at that point, like any good tweaker, I had a cell phone that only worked on Wi-Fi. So I somehow turned the 4-hour drive into 3 days, and finally got there. Before I got there, I was trying to, get some drugs from anywhere I could. Actually, I went into a gas station, and I thought the lady looked like she maybe did drugs, so I asked her if she knew where to get anything, and she was like, no, I don't, but my husband's a cop. And I was like, oh shoot, maybe he knows where. But so then I asked her if I could take a nap, because I was, getting ready to crash out. So she said yeah. And I pulled up to the gas pump, and it was like snowing and stuff, and I ended up just passing out in my car with it running for like 6 hours at the gas pump until she came and woke me up or whatever. But I was only like 5 or 10 miles from the treatment center at that point, and so I just kind of gave up on getting one last high because I'd known from previous times that it's never going to be enough. So even though it sounded like a good idea in theory, the one is too many, thousands never enough thing was for sure true for me. But so anyway, I have my first one-on-one with my counselor when I get there, and he asked me why I picked Hazelden, and I told him because I wanted a treatment that was not 12-step based and all that. And then he kind of looked at me funny and he goes, like, you realize we're like the 12-step mecca of the country, right? Which, I don't know, must have been foggy when I was making my treatment reservations because I didn't see that on the website. But I mean, you guys may know I'm from the company that prints the 24 hours a day Alcoholics Anonymous book. So yeah, they are pretty much the 12-step mecca of the country. But at that point, I kind of thought about it, and I was I was thinking, like, I've seen people that I was in AA with, whatever that was, 4 or so years prior, and I was friends with them on Facebook or whatever, and I could see their lives had been consistently getting better, and they were doing good, and having all sorts of good stuff happen to their lives. So kind of just had like a mind shift, and I guess because I had like the gift of desperation that they talk about, that I finally realized that my way had not been working for me, and that I had been getting the same shitty results in my life over and over again. And I tried using every different drug substance that I could that I could possibly try, and I tried making them all fit into my life, and they all just kept burning my life down to the ground. So I just kind of made a decision there that I was going to do whatever they recommended to me in that treatment, and I was going to do it whether I thought it was a good idea or if I saw any reason for doing it. I was just going to do it. So that's what I did. And they had a little, it was a really nice treatment. And they had a 12-step, it's called the Lodge, but it's kind of like a 12-step immersion program, they call it, which I chose to do after I graduated from my inpatient there. So I did like 2 more weeks at the 12-step based thing where they take you through the book and kind of like break down the steps and why you do them and stuff. So I like that. They said that when I got out that I should get a sponsor and work the steps. So that's what I did. I started doing like a meeting a day at least for, I don't know if it was like the full 90 and 90 like is common, but I went almost every day for a long time and worked the steps with my sponsor up until step 9, and then that was around the time that coronavirus hit. So that was a good excuse for me to not continue on that and just kind of rest on my laurels, as they would say. But then my sponsor ended up kind of like relapsing, I don't know, but I ended up getting a new sponsor, and he had me do all those amends, and so I did all those, including sending a money order to the gas station that I robbed, which my fiance looked at me kind of funny when I told her that I had to get a money order to pay back the gas station I robbed. But so I got all those done. And now, since that last treatment at Hazelden, that was February 5th of 2019, which is kind of crazy because Chris's old sobriety date was February 5th. And so I don't know, that's cool. I don't want to lose that date ever, but and he's from Newton, Massachusetts, and I live in Newton, Iowa. So I don't know, just kind of cool coincidences. But but yeah, after that, my life's been, 10 times better than I could have imagined. And I have a life today that is more appealing than the life of using drugs. And so, and dopey was a big part of my recovery from when I was in early recovery. I found it and listened to an episode and then went back and started at episode 1. And yeah, I just love dopey. But I think that's it. Thanks for letting me share, guys.